Okay. Welcome back to Dishing with Dr. Dewar. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Dewar, and I'm here with my friend, frequent host, and colleague, Natalie Rhymes, owner of Envision Counseling.
Hi.
So today's conversation actually came to me, the idea, like many things do, when I was blow drying my hair and watching Instagram reels. And something particularly inspirational had come across kind of about filters. And it's actually really ironic. I was just sharing with Natalie that my favorite filter on Snapchat is actually labeled unfiltered because it is designed to make you look natural, but better, right? Real, but just better. And
Enhance.
enhanced.
Mhm.
And so the idea came to me, how many of us don't even know what we look like without filters anymore? Like I have taken a raw photo and been like, no, I'm not. I'm not posting that. Where's my unfiltered filter? But how many of us don't even recognize what we look like anymore? And also, how many of us put filters on other areas of our life? So today we are talking about living life authentically, being unfiltered, and not editing our lives the way we edit our photos. So today that's what we will be discussing. Welcome back to Dishing with Dr. Dewar. Pull up a chair because we're about to dig in. All right, Natalie. So I already told on myself. I'm curious when you hear the word filter, what comes to mind?
Well, immediately I thought of like the filters. I don't know if where did it start? Was it Instagram or Snapchat with the like dog
Yo,
ears and
Snapchat.
Snapchat? Okay. That was the first thing that came to my mind. But when you were telling that story, I thought, oh my gosh, don't hate me, but I never filter my photos. Like whatever I post
Just
on
naturally beautiful.
No, I mean, I just don't care. Sometimes I
Yeah.
post pictures without makeup, and I know that might be rare. And I'm sorry for those of you that I don't judge
But
anybody for
but
filtering
why are we
anything.
sorry though? I think that's part of the conversation that we're gonna have today. But go ahead.
I think in the past, like if I maybe said that, somebody said something about a filter and I said I don't use them. Oh, well, you don't have to. You're just was kind of a, judgy kind of tone. Like,
Weird.
well, I'm sorry, like I don't know why I said I'm sorry, actually.
Yeah,
Sorry, not sorry. Okay, I don't use
right?
filters, but have I ever caught myself filtering my life? Yes, that I can definitely relate to. I would say, even though I pride myself on being authentic and real and all those things, I would say that I'm selectively real, I guess, as
Uh-huh.
far as what I post on social media. Now, those that really know me, that I trust in my inner circle, they know all my drama and all my flaws and
Right.
all the stuff. But I don't put everything out there on social media, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I filter my life
I think
somewhat.
I think that there's a distinction to that though, because there's a difference between pretending and privacy,
Right.
right? So there's a difference between not everybody needs to know that I argued with my kid before school today.
Right.
And me posting after screaming at my kids for 20 minutes, oh, the love of my life,
Mhm.
the reason my heart beats, and portraying that things are amazing when maybe they're just real.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between privacy and not everybody needs to know every single thing about my business and pretending that things are not what they are.
True. That's very true.
Yeah. Which I think that lends itself to the next question. And we've talked about social media many times before. I don't think you can really avoid it in most topics. And the initial question was, do you think social media has changed our expectations of authenticity? But I think a better question, because I think the answer is just yes. That's too easy. How do you think it has changed our expectations of authenticity?
I don't know. I mean, in some ways, I think a lot of social media is just like your life is like a beach vacation
Mhm.
and dinner at all these great restaurants. Those are the things that you see the most, like the highlight reel. But I
Viral
also
thing.
think there is some diversity and maybe it's generational. Like I
Mhm.
think with the younger generations, you see a lot more of posting just everyday stuff, the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Right.
right? So I don't know, maybe it's cultural and generational. What do you think?
I would say that's probably fair. Like, I know for sure my mom does not filter, my dad does not filter, whether it's because they don't know how or they don't, mostly, I think they don't care. So that's a generational thing. But I've also seen people spend, like, I've witnessed it in the gym, like in the locker room, 30 minutes trying to get the perfect, just worked out photo
Wow.
where they're trying to look authentic. They're trying to, and they probably did just work out, but they want it to look like I look good when I finished working out.
And the perfect lighting.
I look like a drowned rat, like sadness. And so that's my filtering is just not posting that. But I would say probably 10 years ago, I probably would have been guilty. I don't have time for that anymore. But like in my late 20s, early 30s, I probably would have been guilty of, I don't like that one. Let me take that again. Oh, that still doesn't, hold on, let me put on some mascara, right?
Hmm.
And so I think there's a lot of that happening. And I tell on myself all the time here, right? So I'll do it again. Every once in a while, I'll see someone post a really just like a literal just woke up like this or a really honest photo, right?
Hmm.
And I'll think to myself, oh, goodness, why would you put that out there? So I think social media has changed some of our expectations of authenticity that way too. We almost, like you said, judge people for not glossing it up a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Judge them more harshly, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, whoo, where's your, you didn't want to brush your hair? No, nothing.
Mhm.
So now I catch myself, but I think it has changed our expectations of what we expect to see. And so when someone is real, raw, and honest, they get judged more harshly than they normally would because we're kind of all living in this filtered reality. It's
Yeah.
almost unheard of, or I don't know, maybe it pops a bubble when somebody, exposes what's behind the curtains, and maybe it causes the rest of us to feel like, or exposes that maybe we're not as perfect as we would like for people to think that we are.
Yeah. The whole obsession with being normal, which I hate that word.
There is a no.
Right. There isn't.
So so then my next question is, why do you think that pretending is so exhausting? Do you think it's exhausting? I mean, you've just self-admitted like you don't pretend a whole lot, but
So, okay, yes. And I think it's exhausting because the whole idea of chasing being normal is
mm,
an unattainable goal because normal doesn't exist.
right.
We're all different and we're different on purpose, different by design. That's what
Yeah.
I believe. That, we're here to figure out what it is we are meant to do and be, and all of that depends on our special gifts and talents and abilities.
Mhm.
But if you're hiding those things because you're trying to be like somebody else or what you think
Right.
everybody else is supposed to be, you're never going to get there. And so
Yes.
you're making yourself miserable because you're trying to achieve an unattainable goal.
Yeah. Or pretending you've achieved it
Yeah.
and you haven't. Like keeping up that appearance. Gosh, this is just going to be Stephanie's confessions today. Let's
Now,
go.
I've got some confessions too. They'll
So,
come later.
for example, okay, when Chloe first started playing travel softball, which is not cheap, I was a single mom who got paid once a month on a very poorly made school counselor salary schedule. It was not good. And looking back on it, I'm really not sure how I managed, but we were lumped in with some people that were doing very well for themselves, owned businesses, were driving very nice cars. Now that I look back, did they really afford all that? I don't know, but it seemed like they did. So we would be with, the team, and they'd be like, well, we're going to go have team dinner at such and such. I wasn't about to say, we can't afford that. We're going home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would internally panic. How am I going to, like, what if my card gets declined, or how am I going to make this work? But outwardly, like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, sure. I'll pitch in on appetizers, all the things that they weren't concerned about. And that was exhausting because on the surface, I was making it work, but then backpedaling behind that because I didn't really have it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I felt like for the sake of my kid, we looked like we did. We
Mhm.
tried to look like we did,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, that's just one small example.
I've definitely been there too
Yeah,
before in
yeah,
situations and restaurants. like been invited to a party, let's say, I can't remember if it was like a before a wedding or before some kind of
Mhm.
before like something. And I assumed because when I do these kinds of events, if I'm inviting people to eat, I'm paying
Right.
for the group because it was a
Yeah.
party to celebrate a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if I was a graduation party and I
Yeah.
invite people to a restaurant, I'm paying for them to eat. But I got there and realized it wasn't that. And it was an expensive restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, like high dollar. And
Like
yeah,
Julia Roberts, which fork?
I was doing the mental math and my mom was with me, I remember. And like when I realized, I think at the end when the waiter came and the host said, "Oh yeah, separate checks." And I was like this panic, trying not to panic, and then
Right.
my mom looks at me and she's like, "What?" I was like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I got it. I'm doing this mental math. Okay, I got this credit card. I got this."
Right. Like, what's the balance?
I
Do I
did
have
not
enough room?
plan for this,
Yes.
okay? But
Yeah.
yeah, no, been there, and that is you don't wanna say, "I can't afford this,"
Right.
like, "I didn't plan for this." That's
Yeah.
awful, it's the
Yeah.
worst.
And I mean, that's just one example. I also, speaking of exhausting, so I was speaking at a large event last week. And so I was trying to look professional. I was trying to have it all together. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure my makeup looks good. I'm going to wear lashes because, stage makeup so people can, like, I don't know, right? It's what you do. It I was getting so flabbergasted at trying to get these things to stick on my I like who doing that every day, there's no way I could do that every day. And just another example of something that I'm doing definitely for someone else, not for myself. And like they were poking, it just wasn't worth it, right? But I think when we're constantly trying to put out there something that is not real, it's almost like that old adage that you get from your parents. It's easier to tell the truth than to try to keep up with a lie.
Yeah,
Eventually,
mhm,
the
catches up.
it catches up. The truth comes out. Eventually, your card gets declined and you're embarrassed, or it comes out that you don't really live in such and such subdivision, or you don't really know the things that you're pretending to know. So another interesting aspect to filtering your life is the loneliness that creates. Would you agree with that? When you're living a lie, basically,
Mhm.
if we're going to be harsh about it, that creates a very lonely space.
I would think so. I mean, unless it's the culture of your community, like you
Right.
think about like groups of people that travel together that put on this facade of, these are all the things we have. These are all, we're
Right.
always taking these vacations and doing all these things. Then maybe it becomes more normal. But I still would think it would be lonely because unless you have somebody that you can truly be yourself with.
Right. Like, I think that's the piece that would be very lonely is I can't really tell anyone the struggle I'm having. I
Mhm.
can't really tell anyone that, my kid makes straight A's, but I know they have a prescription drug problem. I can't really tell anyone that we live in this amazing house, but we're getting close to bankruptcy. I can't
Mhm.
really tell anyone, right? Because I put out there that this is the way my life is, that
Yeah.
I I live in this beautiful home and I drive this nice car and my kids are successful and right. And when you put that out there and you don't have anyone that you can tell the truth to,
Mhm.
then it's kind of you against
The world.
the world by yourself. Versus if I'm living authentically and my friends know that, gosh, I argue with my kids all the time or my job's not going great or whatever, maybe that's not so comfortable to tell the truth sometimes, but at least you're not facing everything alone, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of diversity in the depth to which we share ourselves,
Mhm.
and I do think it's a lot of it's cultural and generational, like we talked about. Because I'm thinking about, for example, in the Black community, like there's this generally, I'm speaking generally, right? This shared belief that we keep our business at home,
Yeah.
that we don't talk about outside what goes on inside the home,
Right.
like, and if we're struggling financially or whatever, that's for us to figure out. Or we might go to other family members or something, but we
Right.
don't put that out for the general public. And that's just a cultural thing.
Yeah.
So I think that there are those things that differ from culture to culture
Mhm.
about because then my question I was thinking when you were telling that was, how do you know when privacy becomes pretending and or where you fall in that and what's healthy and what's not?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a question every person would have to ask themselves. I think for me, I catch myself sometimes like, am I embellishing that story? Was it really that great? Like, there's some vacation pictures that do not tell the truth, right? And then why am I sharing what I'm sharing? Am I sharing that, I don't know, to share an experience with someone, or am I sharing that so that I fit in somewhere, or am I sharing that so that people will believe a certain thing about me?
Yeah.
I think there's some reflection that has to happen there. Because like you said, for a lot of people it's kind of it's normal. We don't even recognize sometimes that we're doing it. Um,
So maybe asking yourself, okay, what am I sharing? Look at your life. Take stock.
yeah,
Okay, what do I share on social media?
and why?
Yeah. Why do I share this and not this?
Yeah. Or why did I feel the need to filter that picture? And now with AI, so like
Mhm.
I was playing with this the other day. We had taken a picture. We were on the coast and we had taken a picture next to the water, but the wind kind of blew my hair wonky and we were on a sidewalk, whatever. And so I just put it in there, fix her hair and put them on a beach. Perfect beach photo. You would never know. Never know. But why?
Right. Yeah.
Why?
Because it needs to be perfect.
I guess.
Does it?
Does it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Why? So I think that's a good question. So I have another funny story that always comes to mind when we're talking about filters. I was in a statewide education meeting about, I don't know, I'm sure it was something that somebody thought was important. But the person leading this meeting was clearly working from home and had on what looked like a pajama shirt, but she had activated, because in Zoom, you can put certain filters. You can do lipstick, you can do eyebrows.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah. So she had activated the eyebrow filter, right?
Oh,
But she kept moving faster than her eyebrows could keep up. And so the whole time we have this side chat going like, "Oh my gosh, are they going to catch up? Oh my gosh, they're on her nose." What, like, the whole, like, nobody was paying attention to this meeting. We were all watching where the eyebrows were going to end up because they were not catching up. But it made me think, have you ever had a slip of one of your filters? Something kind of like we were talking about, like the card got declined and you had to admit, I don't have it. I'm going to have to wash dishes. Or maybe you did eyelashes and one of them's like winging off to the side.
yeah. Okay, I can confess something here because you did send me the questions beforehand, so I had time to think about it a little. And the thing that came to my mind with that was my first experience in therapy. And I don't think I've shared it on any of your episodes. I've shared it on another podcast. So I didn't start therapy myself until I was an adult and I was a school counselor and I just started working on the side as a private practice. I mean, you knew me back then. Yeah. And so I just thought, well, very logically, not thinking I need to go to therapy, just very logically, like, well, if I'm going to pursue private practice, then I need to know what it feels like to be on the other
Right.
side of the couch, right? So I'm going to go to therapy. And I found someone that was highly recommended and sat down on the couch and quickly realized that I had not allowed myself to feel because she would ask me questions. Well, how do you feel about whatever thing I'm talking about? And I would say, well, I just think it's interesting because so
Uh-huh.
and such and such. And she would say, okay, but how do you feel? And I would say, well, I feel like it's a bad decision because if I do this, then it is better.
Thinking,
I was
cognitive. Yeah.
rationalizing everything. And finally, she picked up this paper that I have actually, and I use in therapy with all these emotions. And she handed it to me and she said, look at this. And I looked at it and she said, give me some feelings. And I, okay,
Uh,
resentful. Okay, yeah, I feel this,
uh-huh.
and then it hit me like I do this. I ask
Mhm.
people all day and I talk to people all day about their feelings and they're allowed to have feelings. So then the question is, why don't I allow myself to have
Right.
feelings? And that led to a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But that was a big like realization for me.
Yeah.
The filter, I guess, that I was wearing was that of the fixer, the problem
Yeah.
solver, the caregiver, the
Yeah.
counselor. And I did that at work and I did that at home. So I was always solving something for somebody else and not checking in with myself to see what needed to be solved with me.
Mhm.
So that was a big one.
So I do think that our defense mechanisms are another form of filtering, just
Mhm.
like you intellectualized everything.
Yeah.
I don't need to feel. I think.
Hmm.
Uh, So sometimes the filter is humor.
Yeah.
If you're not laughing, you're crying, so I'm going to
Mhm.
laugh. Or the filter could be avoidance.
Yeah.
My life is perfect so long as I don't acknowledge
Mm.
that there's any problems.
Yeah.
So sometimes the defenses that we choose are filters and we don't even realize that we have them.
Yeah.
And sometimes those defenses buy us a little time, but eventually, just like the eyebrows, like the defense can't keep up and the truth comes out. So it's a famous line in a movie. I can't remember exactly when. It might have been Liar, Liar, or maybe something else. But he was like, and the truth shall set you free. But the truth is often a lot harder than the filter, right? So why do you think honesty is harder than the filters? Honesty is harder than pretending.
It's uncomfortable, you know. When I first found myself having to sit with my feelings and try to figure out how to do that. First of all,
Mhm,
that was my first
mhm,
question. How do I even do that? I haven't allowed myself to even do that. I was distracting myself with
uh-huh,
doing all these things. So I had to learn how to be still. I had to learn how to ask myself, check in with myself, what are you feeling? And
mhm,
so it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to face truth when or face whatever when you're not used to doing that.
yeah. I also think it's especially hard to be honest when no one else is,
Yeah,
right?
pressure.
Like if everybody was posting no makeup pictures, then I would probably be more comfortable posting no makeup pictures. Then I would feel more comfortable being honest.
Okay.
But I feel like nobody plays by those rules, and so it's harder to be honest when you're the only one, or you feel like you're the only one being honest,
Yeah, that makes sense.
right? So sometimes honesty is harder for that reason too. But in the long run, easier because you're
Yes.
not having to keep up with the exhaustion of trying to keep up appearances that aren't reality
Mm.
and trying to keep up the lie or whatever it is that you've put out there. So we've talked a little bit about filters and why that's hard, and I think you touched on a little bit when you actually had to sit down and talk about your reality, right?
Mhm.
What does it look like? We know what it looks like to live with filters. I think we're all pretty familiar with that. What does it look like to live authentically?
Oh, man. Okay, I have another personal story about this, dropping the filter and just I didn't have a choice in this particular example that this was around the time I had started therapy, and then after my mom passed, that all happened sequentially, which again, I think was by design. So I just happened to already be in therapy, and I had a therapist when my mom passed, and so that was fortunate. But I hadn't cried yet after her death, and I don't know
Mhm.
how long it was after, probably within the first 6 months. But I had to get on a plane and go to Missouri, and I was at the airport, and I was just doing what I do, focus on the next task, on
Uh-huh.
the next thing that needs to be done. And I was so focused that so when you know how you're at the airport and they have sometimes the two lines where you take your shoes off
Yeah.
and put them in the box. So there were two lines, and I got in the left line and put my shoes and things in and went through. And then they had two of the scanner things
Yeah.
that you go through.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that the one that was right in front of me, nobody was using. Even though there were two lines for the conveyor belts, there was only one line to go through security. So I was just looking straight ahead of me, and there was a TSA person standing there. So I was waiting for her to tell me come through. But what I didn't see was everyone else lining up on
Right.
the right side and going that way. And then there was another TSA agent over there, and she yelled at me
No,
like,
they
"Do
get
I
cranky.
mean, it was harsh. It was like the tone that she did it was shocking. I remember she was like, "Do you not see everybody else standing over here in this line?" I remember like, whoa, it shocked me
Uh-huh.
back. But my immediate reaction was, I'm so sorry because I thought I offended her. And then I went into caretaker mode and wanted to ask her, truly, I almost asked her, "Are
Are
you
you
okay?"
okay? Yeah.
Like, is everything, like, because something clearly was wrong with her that day, right?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't a normal, like, normal. I hate that word. It
Yeah.
wasn't a typical,
An expected reaction
right, right,
for
right.
you missing the line.
But
Yeah.
she was very angry. And so I apologized and I would have continued to talk to her, but she wouldn't make eye contact with me. And then the lady next to her, the other agent, realized that she was
Uh-huh.
unprofessional and rude. And she started being really nice to me, like overly nice. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, your hair's so cute." And, giving me
Uh-huh.
compliments and stuff. And I, "Thank you." And as I walked off, I just broke down and started ugly
Mhm.
crying in the middle of the airport. And I'm by myself. There's nobody else with me. And so I had to get to the gate and I just cannot stop crying. And I had put my makeup on, so I've
Yeah.
got mascara running, and then like, "Oh, why am I crying like this?" And then I realized this is grief. It's not about the lady that was rude to me.
Yeah.
I hadn't cried yet, but then I could not stop. So I just found a corner and sat against a wall and just boohooed for, I don't know, 30 minutes until the plane got there.
Yeah.
But that was just one of those moments that it was like, it was really, really hard.
Yeah.
So,
And there was no faking fine in that moment.
no, no, I couldn't. I was
Yeah.
forced to face my reality and
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's true about authenticity is it's not pretty
Mhm.
most of the time.
Sometimes it's forced on us. Sometimes we
Yes.
don't get to choose.
Yeah.
Like you said, if the card declines, then here you go. What are you gonna do?
Right. It is what it is.
Mm.
This is such an embarrassing memory, but do you remember Luby's?
Mhm.
And you could go through the line, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why we thought that was fancy, but we really did. And my friend and I were at the mall in probably 6th grade. So we had a set amount. This was before Cash App cards and call your mom. Like we had a set amount of cash. I don't even know how we were there by ourselves, but we were. And I had always gone through with my parents. So I was never responsible for paying for it. So I didn't realize that every single thing costs money. So we got to the end of the line and I was like, I'm gonna have to give this back. I'm gonna have to give this back. My $10 was not covering all that I thought I needed. And in those moments, there's no pretending things are fine.
Mhm.
In those real raw grief moments, there is no filter for that.
Yeah. So maybe if we can find small ways to be more authentic and take those filters off, then it won't be so difficult when the big things come.
Right? It's a very brave thing, but almost a public service. If I can be authentic with other people and just tell the truth, then that might give someone else permission to be authentic and just tell the truth
Mhm.
about, I think that about parenting, right? At least I have felt very judged, or that's kind of the norm is you don't want anybody to think that you're
A bad
a bad
parent.
parent.
Yeah.
And so you want your kids to behave in public. You want your kids to be respectful. You want, which I mean, I want that for other reasons too. I want them to be good human beings, but sometimes we don't tell the truth about, little Johnny threw a fit in the store the other day, or we don't post about the arguments we have or the things that don't go well because we want to portray that things are great,
Yeah.
but that creates loneliness for other parents who are struggling
Mhm.
because life is not perfect. Kids are not perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, mine are pretty great and I love them, but we have moments. We had a whole full meltdown over the rules for cover your assets last night. And it took Carson 30 minutes to recover and finally admit that maybe the rules were the rules and we could finish the game. Now, I feel the need to post that on Facebook, but I mean,
Mhm,
those things
mhm.
happen. And when you pretend like things are perfect, then you you put other people in the position to feel like they have to pretend that too.
Yeah, that's true.
So in a way, living authentically and taking off the filters is doing everyone a favor.
Mhm.
It just takes a really brave person to be the first one to do that.
I had a thought, and I know this could be a whole other episode, but thinking about authenticity in the counseling relationship with our
Mhm.
clients, and how there's a huge debate over self disclosure.
Yes.
and
Yes,
whether it's appropriate. What are your thoughts on that? Because I believe that authenticity, done in an appropriate way, really is helpful.
for sure. So I was actually thinking about this the other day. I do some public speaking. And I observe other people who also speak. And the ones that are the most impactful are the ones that are just tell it like it is real. This is what happened in my life. This is how I got here. And I struggle with that still because I was trained that this isn't about you, it's about them. And so I have to keep myself together because I don't want to make it about me. Right. So that's something that occurred to me, exactly what you said. Consider why you're sharing it. But yes, being real and not trying to sugarcoat over something is actually helping someone else.
Yeah.
Whereas holding all that in and pretending like it didn't affect me or I've never experienced that, that actually makes things harder for the other person who's struggling.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. As a therapist, I am careful to consider why am I sharing this story? Like, is this because it would be helpful to them, or is this because I'm making it my therapy? I think that's important.
Hmm.
But I do think it's important to be real.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell a client that I've never been anxious before.
Right.
That's like my baseline.
And I think a lot of them come in with the idea or expectation that because we're therapists that we just have it all together and
Oh, yeah.
we don't have
No.
any issues. And, I see a lot of kids lately, neurodivergent
Mhm.
kids, and my home is a neurodivergent household.
Yes.
My son is
Same.
on the spectrum. My daughter's ADHD, and I late in life figured out that they both got it from me. so, so I have a little bit of both. But I have parents that I see that come in with their kids and they're just like, I don't know what to do. And,
Mhm.
and they feel because their kids might be getting in trouble at school.
Right.
And so they feel like they're bad parents. And so I always try to share with them,
Yeah.
like, hey, I've been there. I've seen this. I've done this.
Yes.
I
Yes.
have this going on in my house right now,
Yeah.
So
You're not alone.
right. Right.
Absolutely.
And I can see like the relief that comes over them when they're like, okay, everybody needs to know they're not alone.
Yes. I think probably going back to the original question of what does it look like to live authentically, that's a big piece of it, is being honest enough to admit when things aren't perfect and to let other people know that they're not alone
Yeah.
when you notice that they're struggling. So I think that's an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up because that is something I've been thinking about from a professional standpoint, but also how that expectation has kind of filtered over into other areas of my life where I'm like, well, I literally said this. So I'm writing a book. I'm on chapter 6. This is really exciting stuff. And going back and editing, like from when I started the first chapter, I literally, when I sent it to my friend, is this worth writing? I said, I don't want to sound whiny, but I'm telling my story.
Hmm.
And she did write back, part of this chapter feels really apologetic. Like you're sorry that you're sharing. And so going back and editing, I'm kind of trying to be a little more vulnerable in the truth, which is hard, especially when you have been trained or have absorbed the expectation that we don't want to come across as too much or a burden or not perfect or I've said that too. Speaking of therapists going to therapy, I have to be really careful who I choose to go to because I know a lot of people in the business. And I don't want somebody sitting in my session one day and be like, oh, this lady's crazy. No, she can't be talking about this because she does not. Right. So just that, again, that filter of I have it together.
Hmm.
I do for the most part. But, nobody has it completely together. Nobody has it all perfect,
Right.
perfectly filtered, right?
Yeah.
So, what is one filter, if you had to pick one, that you would say you have intentionally and feel relatively successfully have removed from your life?
The need to be the fixer.
Mhm.
I've
That's a big one.
yeah, I've purposely well, because I do it I think it's become easier since I switched to private practice
Mhm.
because I'm in that role of, facilitating and creating, holding space and all those things.
Mhm.
So when I'm home, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. And
You
I
figure it
I
out.
may be too much on the other side. Like my kids, I'm just like, figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Mom's brain is on vacation.
Yeah, but so
Yeah.
no, in my personal life, I have given up and again, maybe too much on the other side of that. I don't know. Like with my friends, I've probably abandoned them emotionally, maybe a little bit. They've had to sink or swim too.
So this is something I'm realizing though. One of what I don't want to give away too much because I want somebody to read my book. But one of the sub chapters in my book is who asked you? Because I've realized from the fixer standpoint that a lot of times I'm fixing things nobody asked me to fix.
Yeah.
And they're really perfectly capable of managing.
Mhm.
And I've taken that upon myself for what reason?
Right.
Whether that's perceived I'm preventing a conflict or something, I don't know. I'm still working through it. I'll let you know how it goes. Um, but that is something that has been I've also been trying to remove.
Mhm.
And
It's hard.
a big piece of that I've been since I had the epiphany a couple of weeks ago asking myself, "Who asked you, Stephanie?
Mhm.
Who asked you to do that?" Because a lot of the times the answer is me,
Yeah.
nobody else.
That's such a common thing for us as women. And again, that could be a whole episode.
Right.
But yeah, because we're taught from a very young age to nurture and
I mean, it's a natural thing. And I don't think that that in itself is a bad thing. I think it becomes problematic when it overtakes everything
yeah,
and you can't know how you feel and you can't know what you need because you're too busy knowing what everyone else needs who didn't ask you.
right.
And then you get resentful and frustrated
Yeah.
and because your needs aren't being met because you're so busy.
Mhm.
Um, And I mean, I think we could take that right back to the filters too. And the loneliness when we are so busy making sure everyone else is happy with the way our life looks, then we don't actually take care of what we need to take care of. And that creates resentment, that creates anxiety, that dissonance, that difference between our reality and our portrayal creates a lot of anxiety and depression because life is not actually as it seems.
Mm.
So, a lot of things to think about. There's a new thing I'm trying at the end of my episode. So, we'll see how it goes. It's a rapid fire.
Okay.
So, I'm going to just finish the sentence and whatever comes out, that's what comes out.
Okay.
Okay. So, one filter I wish more people would remove is
Trying to be normal,
okay. Authenticity feels like
freedom
nice.
for
I
me.
like that.
For me, yeah.
Yes. The biggest lie social media tells us is
We have to be perfect
yes.
or always happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Life is unicorns and rainbows every
Mhm.
day, all the time.
Yeah.
It's not. Freedom begins when
We tell the truth.
if everyone listening did one brave thing this week, it would be
Okay, so I'm thinking of this like two ways. So if I could come up with one thing for everybody to do, like,
one brave thing.
okay, I would say, oh, okay, so I can't go through any episode without mentioning this, but this is my honest answer. Everyone out there who has a primary care physician also needs to have a primary care therapist. We need to start thinking of mental health as health. Preach. You have a doctor, you need a therapist. And no, you don't have to go weekly. You don't have to go monthly. Maybe you just go for a checkup, like you get blood work done and physicals done. But you need to have somebody you can call when the stuff hits the fan,
Yeah. When
which,
things get hard.
and it will in life. Something will happen. You will lose someone. There will be a tragedy. You'll lose a job or,
Yeah.
something will, and you need to have that person that you
Yeah.
can call.
Life definitely keeps lifing, whether we like it or not.
So the one brave thing that I would tell people, if you don't have a therapist, get one.
I know a great one. So I would leave everyone with this challenge this week. Take inventory, take time to reflect where in your life you may be putting filters, whether that is avoiding conflict, whether that is being the fixer, whether that is taking 45 minutes to complete one picture because the no filter isn't working. Whatever that looks like for you, take time to reflect on that and what might become more freeing if you didn't have those filters in place. Where would you be more free to live authentically and be yourself? If today's episode has challenged you or encouraged you or made you stop and think, then please share it with someone else who might benefit. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a comment. I would love to know your thoughts, one brave thing you decided to do, or if there's a subject you would like to hear about in the future, because dry my hair every morning and I come up with new ideas all the time. But I would love to hear things that other people might be interested in knowing more about or discussing. So, with that, I appreciate you, Natalie, again for taking time to have these conversations with me. And that is it for Dishing with Dr. Dewar. We'll see you next time.